Hello, everybody. My name is Benjamin Bloom, and welcome back to part two of our season 99 2000 retrospective. Before we get back into this, Dave, are you still alive?
Yeah, we're all good. As far as I know, we're all good here. Yeah, and in your family, all good so
Yeah,
far.
yeah,
Good,
we are
good.
all good, and we're recording on Mother's Day, even though we might
We-
not put it out until so. If there are, I know our audience is 99.6% male, but if there are any mothers listening, then happy Mother's Day to
Happy Mother's Day. I'm just when I finish this, I've got instructions to Teresa's parents. My wife's parents live literally around the corner, about I don't know, quarter of a mile away. So yeah, I'm running round a roast lamb dinner, which I'm going to leave at their door for them. It's kind of nice, isn't
and
it? Like
and
Meals
run.
on wheels.
It's the best type of knock and run
Deliveroo.
possible, isn't it? It's you
Sorry.
don't find it's best type of knock and run. You don't find a turd on your doorstep. You find a whole roast lamb dinner. And Dave, you said you've been enjoying some programming on the telly today, some
Oh
ITFC
man,
related.
I've been busy on the garden. I've had a very productive couple of days on the garden because the weather's been nice, pointing outside, bit on the cool side if you're in the wind. But yeah, I had some clearing some sort of rubbish out of like borders and general tidying up, which is good. And then I came in about an hour ago, and oh, I missed. I thought the one on BBC was supposed to be at like 20 to 5. They brought that forward for some reason, which completely caught me unawares. Which
Oh,
was the Everton Ipswich 1985 Cup quarter final. But some of the guys on the WhatsApp group said, "Oh, we're all over BT Sports." So I just caught a classic Liverpool Town from obviously a defeat at Anfield, 1-0 in '83, I think. A bit of a classic Dalglish free kick, to be perfectly
oh,
honest. Dalglish
okay.
liked playing against us. He really did, really, really did.
He
But that was quite good.
liked playing against everyone, Dave, didn't he?
He did. What was quite interesting about that
Sir
team, I think,
Kenneth, as it says on Twitter. Oh,
I think that team was probably that might have been one of the last games before the real serious breakup of a team. Like Brazil, I think went shortly afterwards, and but the nucleus of the team was all still there, other than Arnold Muren, I think, at that point. But yeah, good. Yeah, it's good. All good. This retro stuff. I'm loving it.
and speaking of which, we will pick up where we left off, Dave. So we got to January the 1st, 2000 in our review of the 99 2000
It
season.
did.
If you did not hear the last episode, I would advise you to press pause on this one now and scroll
Absolutely.
down on your phone and find the previous episode. But Dave, the season started, some new signings, a bit of teething problems, bit of defensive issues, a bad month. But George Burley sorting things out, bringing Tony Mowbray back out of both the cups. But here we are at the turn of
I,
the year. Manchester City, top of the league with a little gap. Huddersfield up there in second. Charlton have just started their outlandish 12-game winning streak. Ipswich are sat there
yeah, I've had a
in
look.
fourth position, Dave, with an unbeaten record standing at 10 games now. Stuff is about to start to turn in the right direction, we think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, a few draws in there. I mean, I must admit, that when we covered that first part of the season, you just didn't appreciate just how many injuries again we had back then. We think, oh, these days, Christ, we can't hardly keep anyone fit. But yeah, even back then, we really did have some, and even as will transpire going forward into the next part of the season, again, very very rarely did we really, I would say, put out our strongest 11, did we?
Difficult times. Off
Yeah.
we go
Just a
to.
quick number one for the new millennium, Ben. Any
Uh,
takers? You'd probably know
it
this
must
one.
be Cliff Richard, the Millennium Prayer, mustn't it?
No, it wasn't actually. It was Westlife. I have a dream. Seasons in the sun.
Okay,
There you go.
who sang Seasons in the Sun originally?
Terry Jacks,
Terry
circa 1974.
Terry Jacks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bit of a one-hit
interesting.
wonder, I believe, probably.
We had joy, we had fun,
A
we had
classic.
seasons in the sun. I have a dream's a bit better, and it's all very Cal and Walsh, isn't it? Hey.
Cowell and Walsh. And have you had to perform both at some social events prior to this?
Well, I have performed I Have a Dream. I'm not afraid to admit that, and got paid quite well for it as well. But I've never.
I knew that was coming.
Well, you have to hold your hands up because people say, "Oh, we playing ABBA for?" Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, there we go. Um, Someone who
Cool.
probably was not playing ABBA or anything was star striker David Johnson, who was out for the first game of the new season. But Dave, the results keep coming. Poor old Jonas Axeldahl can't buy a break. He's going to
Yeah,
hit the
bar
crossbar again
again. Yeah.
in this game.
Yeah.
Bit of a classic lower division player, Tony Naylor scoring, Matt Holland slamming a volley in, James Scowcroft as well. But like you say, just key players dropping in and out
Yeah.
all of the time, but the run keeps going,
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the next game we're getting onto is we thumped Swin. That was a pretty. What I remember about that game, it's been very one-sided. That game.
Yeah, Swindon were really poor this season. So we're at the 14th of January. I think they go down. They're the whipping boys, aren't they? It's
Yeah.
3-0, Dave, and 3 straight wins here for the second time in 9 games. We know in the Championship, not just with with the 3-game weeks, that there's always these opportunities to put together these little runs. You might be like Charlton and stick 4 of them together in a
Yeah.
row. But a goal for Mick Stockwell here and 2 for Richard Naylor. In fact, I remember one of Richard Naylor's goals being absolutely brilliant. It was a kind of spinning lob on the volley, I think. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. I don't actually know. What I remember about this game, I think this was Gary Croft's first appearance back
Yes.
from his custodial sentence. Let's say we can't say that. And this is when Jordan.
He's welcome back like some kind of long lost hero, isn't he? After getting disqualified from driving.
Yeah, what a lad. And this is when Jordan, who was age 8 or whatever at the time, used to say hang about and get autographs. And yes, he got his autograph. And I did draw his attention to the bulge in Gary Croft's sock.
Oh, there you go. Is this Mick Stockwell's last goal for Ipswich Town, Dave?
Oh, I think it must be, isn't it?
Must be, yeah.
Must be, yeah.
Talk to me just quickly about what a great player Stockwell is and how we kind of moved on from those mid-90s players into the new era, and kind of Stockwell stopping and Mowbray obviously at the end of the season.
There was a few like that in the mid '90s. You know, I remember like Kieran Dyer getting in the team, and that was basically signalled the end for Grant Williams.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing. So yeah, natural. What a mixed up. What an absolute. I know him. You know, he's been on these sponsored bike rides, and I've met him a few times. Absolute gentleman, so unassuming. What a servant. What a player. I mean, what a servant to the club. Literally, I think played in every single position, including up front. I remember for a few games, including I think I scored a couple against Leicester. I think a 2-0 winner at Leicester, I believe. Just an absolute hero. And second, stat should put me right. I should know this. Second or third in the all-time appearance list. He's up there, isn't he?
Luke Chambers must be coming up on his heels if he plays another.
I think he's got a fair way.
Has he got a fair way?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolute legend. What a player. Always gave 100%, and certainly a crowd favourite. But you're right. Then as him and Mowbray moved, obviously moved aside. What happened for the next season.
And it's interesting actually because we talked about Fabian Wilness and how his improvement in his time at Ipswich, and obviously the Twitter were broadcasting the 3-0 win against Pompey in 2003, and in the end Wilness did kind of step up in that kind of Stockwell position. And it's interesting that we're talking about, because most people would say Fabian Wilness, brilliant servant, brilliant player, but where we are now, he's just kind of
he's sort of fringy, really,
starting to grow into it. Yeah.
I mean, you've got to move on a season, and bear in mind the impact and the goals, the crucial goals he scored. Christ, a few, the following season. Yeah, he just grew into it, didn't he? Yeah.
Almost helped him that we went back to a back 4, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
He could actually be a fullback rather than a wing back, where maybe players like Croft and Stockwell were a little bit better suited. Here comes game number 6 of 8 across 2 years away at Bolton Wanderers. Always a hard old task. Dean Holdsworth, what a great opponent he was in this season. Lovely header at the back post. And when we were down, it's amazing the amount of times that Matt Holland would pop up with some kind of equaliser in an away game, Dave. 13 games
Yeah, good point,
unbeaten, but
and a good point there because they were on the up as well. Bolton, weren't they? Well, I think we get to it in a little while. They sort of came from nowhere, really, didn't they?
they are going to put to even later than this, Dave. They're going to
Yeah, I
put
know, I know.
together a
Yeah,
hell of
good
a run.
point. Good point.
Another draw here. And when you're going for promotion, Dave,
Same
two
energy.
draws
Yeah,
in a
go on.
row is not good. Amazing to think now. It's 2 games unbeaten, but you do tend to lose ground with consecutive draws in promotion races.
Yeah, I think we'll get to it. There's one crucial week coming up, which ultimately I think costs us. But this is the thing, you know, I was having to check where I was just looking where Sheffield United finished that season. They finished 16th. So you know, again, there's 2 big points dropped right there, isn't it?
And the goal scorer for Sheffield United, Dave?
Yeah. I forgot all about it. Well, yeah, it's Marcus Bent. I forgot. It's quite a clever finish, isn't he? Sort of hooks it. I know, odd finish. You get sort of put clear and sort of hooks it over right.
Yeah,
It's
he's
quite a clever finish.
shielding the defender, and
Yeah,
Wright
and
doesn't
he
expect
hits
the
it quite
shot at
early,
all.
doesn't he? Yeah, it's quite a clever goal. Again, I remember it now, but when I saw your notes and said, did he really? Yeah.
14 unbeaten, even though a slight slowdown in points over those games. So unbeaten for the second month in the league again. Charlton have just zoomed off now into the distance. So it's
Yeah.
Charlton, they're nearly at the 2 points per game now, 28 played, 59. Man City, 28 played, 55. They've had a slow-ish month. They only seem to have added sort of 4 points since we last checked.
We've gained a bit, haven't we, there?
Barnsley still in there, 55. They've played a game more. So have we on 54.
Is it fair to say at this point perhaps we could do with a lift, something to lift us?
Well, it's the start of February.
Cue you. Go on.
So we've talked about final pieces of the jigsaw and Jermaine Wright and Gary Croft and Mowbray coming back, and here comes my all-time favourite Ipswich Town player, and we've spoken about this on the pod before, Dave. Wind back a year, Ipswich challenging against Bradford, and Paul Jewell could bring in Dean Windass at this very point. And if there's one thing that football was different here, the one thing that George Burley was good at was noticing things that were right in front of his face. We've talked about players that perform well against him, and he obviously took that last battle and said, strengthen while you're in the chase and give it that lift. And
also, and I think also, Ben, without, you know, obviously without the social media, back then, these signings, I remember Johnson signing a couple of seasons before, and this one, which you're now going to mention, just came out of nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
Well, there was, you're right. There wasn't 8 journalists tweeting about, and you know, I don't know. He would have been spotted in Starbucks at Copdock or something, wouldn't he?
Dave Allard or Elvin King or someone in the Star, just suddenly breaking this story.
But very much, Bradford had been successful by taking a proven striker from the division, and this is the different look at then and now. This is a lot. This is a club record, 2.5 million, and it's going to go up on promotion. Which, spoiler alert, that payment's going to get triggered. But I remember doing an exercise, Dave, as in the percentage of the world transfer record at the time, and I think we looked up that the world transfer record was Nicholas Anelka. For 20 million at the time, and
this was quite a
10% of it, and you know that would be a 15-20 million pound signing in the championship equivalent, adjused for world.
It was huge, and I think it was a shock, and more of a shock that more of a shock on who he came from.
Yeah, and we've said also, I mean, Huddersfield have dropped out of that top 4, but they were definitely
still there. They're around.
And with this player in their team and the front two we'd spoken about, they had a chance of beating anybody, didn't they?
Is anybody, and I'm sure I must have seen this on Twitter before, but at the time, can anybody remember whether there is a big Huddersfield reaction to this? There must have been.
Yeah,
but without social media and stuff like that, I'd say you tend, sort of passed you by almost. But can you imagine a similar thing happening today? Something like this happening today? My God, it would just be everywhere, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it would be the equivalent of, say, Brentford selling Ben Rama to Fulham now. Yeah, it would be like, what what are you
Or,
doing?
or, or vice versa, or Fulham selling Mitrovic
To Leeds.
to
Yeah,
Leeds.
yeah, it'd be very strange. But Davies already scored 15 goals this season as well, so really proven player. And yeah, we don't know everything that we know, like you're saying about social media, and there's not been 10,000 clips, so the knowledge maybe isn't there. I remember you'd look at the top scorer charts on teletext, wouldn't you, and
Yeah,
see his name up there year after year. But
always.
off we go to Barnsley. So this is second place versus fourth place. Excuse me, fourth place versus third place at the time. Barnsley are actually
Yep.
above
Yep.
Ipswich.
Big,
Barnsley
massive game, huge
yeah,
game.
absolutely huge game. And Marcus Stewart's debut, and we get a front two of Johnson and Stewart in this game with Holland, Magilton and Scowcroft behind. And I mean, you've mentioned in this run-in now, there are 17 games to go. How few times those five players
Yeah, actually, yeah. Well,
and
we
how
know
different things could have been.
Well, we know the aforementioned Marcus Stewart goes AWOL for a quite
Give it a couple of
considerable
games because we're going to win this one 2-0. Scowcroft scores the first goal, but
think he means that. Think he means that one.
I don't think he does because he's slipping. Although
slipping, but
he's got enough quality to be able to do it, and he'd probably deny it. But Dave, also, I was at the game behind the goal, up high in the big stand there behind the goal. I don't think I've ever seen two goals so close together.
Never.
And
not for the same team. Not for the same team. Never. Sometimes you've seen. I think we did it. We did it earlier on this season against Crewe. I think we did when they equalised, and then Johnson almost straight from the kickoff, and Pablo's goal at Coventry. I don't think I've ever seen the same team score quite so quickly. I mean, literally within seconds.
So the ball's given away, and Jim Magilton just class.
He gives it to no eyes. So
class.
if you look
and
at that
plays
back,
with the outside of his foot.
He plays
as well.
with the outside of his foot and looks away. So he plays it. I think he gives it the eyes, plays it, and look. And it just shows what we said before, the ice cold finisher that Stewart was. Guy, and you describe it. I mean,
if you can imagine the heightened sensation, you've just scored in this vital game. Your adrenaline's going through the roof. You're just calming down after the kickoff. Limbs everywhere, etc., etc. And then your new record signing is clean through, and you think, stick your foot through it, just score. And it does actually foreshadow his greatest goal, probably for Ipswich, that's going to come later in the season with this.
And I would say, for similar, the one he scored at Anfield the following season as well, to a degree. That just such coolness.
But when we interviewed him on the channel, Dave, I asked him outright. I said, when you're going through, do you have a plan in your head? I'm going to draw the keeper and scoop it round like he did. And he said no. He said, I'm going to go through and I'm going to react. I'm going to see where the space is and I'm going to see what the keeper does. That's what we're talking about. I mean, David Johnson was a great striker, but you get the idea with Jono. He's going to go through. He's going to trust his technique. He's going to try and get a good shot off into
on his left foot,
either corner on his left foot. Whereas, this off the cuff type of maverick finishing,
and it was incredible because he goes round the keeper. Then you'd like to think. I mean, it's
absolutely
the timing
deliberate.
of it because this defender's back and he sort of he bisects both of them. Then he just rolls it in. I mean, at that point I wasn't there, but you must have been. Well, for goodness' sake, it's just perfect scenario, isn't it?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, he runs behind the goal as he does.
Gives
Jono a hug. The ref comes to say don't go in the stand. He just puts his arm around him, hugs him as well. So I mean, you just couldn't have made a better impact, Dave, or could you? Because on we go to the next game, and it's Stewart's team, Huddersfield. Dave, do I have a recollection that there was a time you were allowed to put a clause in a player's contract after they'd signed to block him for the rest of the season from playing against you? I'm sure that was a thing.
No, never. No, you might be right.
Yeah, let us
someone
know
will put
Twitter.
us right. I've never. No, not what. Okay,
gentleman's
a clause in
agreement.
the contract. Yeah, no, there may be. I've never come across it. I can see why. Obviously, I could see why. And you would think, I mean, Christ Almighty, this just rubs salt into. Well, okay, spoiler alert, but this just does rub salt into the wound, doesn't it? For God's sake, it's ridiculous.
So it's two consecutive sort of top six clashes. I'm trying to think. Did Scowcroft scored the first goal? I think possibly tapped in after
Yeah, he
Holland.
did. Yeah, yeah,
Holland's header was
yeah,
saved by Nico Vassen in the goal. Then Dean Gore, who was a good Dutch midfielder for Huddersfield,
yeah,
gets the equaliser. There's another missed penalty, and this is all playing into extra time of the playoffs. The amount of penalties we miss during this, the amount
yeah,
of penalties we get as well.
yeah.
And then Dave, it's all set up 1-1, and what happens?
I mean, this is totally different to the finish. This is just pure instinct, isn't it? You know, the ball comes in from the left. I assume it's Clapham who plays Stewart in virtually on the edge of the box, and he basically kills it and then swivels all in one movement, is it? Kills it, swivels left foot past Vassen in the far. It's absolute again. You know what a finish, what an absolute class finish. Yeah, into the far corner past Vassen, and obviously he does celebrate quite well, which is always good.
And I know I always quote Ian Wright because he's one of my heroes, but Ian Wright always used to say, "Get a good contact early into one of the corners."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No
That's
chance.
all
Yeah,
you can do, and
yeah.
just incredible. So the first two games he scored the decisive goal, and you think up, away we go, but off we go to Crewe, and Stewart has now vanished.
All sorts of scurrilous rumours, weren't there? Again, even so, without social media, so Christ knows what it'd be like today. But there was all sorts of rumours flying about and what was going on there. But yeah, I don't think we'll ever really know.
And George still tinkering with this right hand side. Michael Clegg comes in on loan from Manchester United and makes his debut there. So he's not quite happy, but we get the win here. I think Clapham scores the
Yeah,
opener, does
strike.
he?
Yeah, and then
Big lump Paul Tate heads one in. And another crazy subplot, he's getting booed during the game. Jermaine Wright has left Crewe, so for the second game running, and not for the first time this season, we're going to have the score against your old club deal. And what a great goal, Dave.
what a strike this is. I mean, this is absolutely half volley, absolutely perfect connection, isn't it? What, about 2 feet off the ground, buries it in the far corner, and it's the winner. And again, he celebrates quite well as well, which is
And
good.
the complete irony is the whole thing with those Crewe players at that time that we'd signed is their technique was just very, very sound. That goal had Dario
Yeah,
Gradi's
yeah,
fingerprints all over it,
yeah.
didn't it? And
A thing of beauty, that one. And did he play? I'm just checking whether our nemesis Rivers played in that game.
he
I'm sure he
did,
did. He
yeah.
play in that game? Yes, he did. So there you go. Perhaps a hoodoo is perhaps
A
buried
little
there.
bit of a ghost to rest. And Dave, you asked me when we were prepping this, did we get into second place at any point? Yes, we did. We're in second spot now. 30 games gone,
Yes, we are.
16 to play. So all set up nicely. But we're going to go off to Birmingham. And if I'm remembering this correctly, because I was at this game, this was a Sunday Sky
Think so.
TV, and it
Yeah.
was utter dross. It was really, really terrible.
Yeah,
Birmingham,
Mowbray scored a pretty scrappy own goal, wasn't it? I seem to remember. And
that
then,
was Michael Clegg's fault. He does a horrible clearance
yeah, that's
up the
right.
line and puts everyone
Yeah, it
back on
gets
their.
straight back. And then, yeah, Johnson close range finish. Again, I made a note here because I think I watched the other day. Clapham has an unbelievable volley, sort of gets it down from a corner and again square against the.
It's one
Square
of those
against the
games,
post.
though, Dave. You know where you get two competitive sides and it's quite ugly, and they kind of both go. You want a point? We want to.
Yeah, it's a away game, so
You know.
yeah, you sort of
But
take it.
that is the 18 game unbeaten record. It's going to be the last one. Spoiler alert. Charlton really have gone like Ben Johnson in Seoul and just sped. Look that one up, kids. Sped into the distance here. They're now 7 points clear at the
And
top.
I'm
And
not sure. I'm not sure there was any suggestion they were taking illegal substances though, Ben. But anyway,
absolutely,
absolutely
absolutely.
not.
I think Ben Johnson still denies it anyway, doesn't he? But there you go. We're in second, so we're now second with 15 to go. But here's the key, Dave. Manchester City have a game in hand. They're 1 point behind. They're going to pip us by 2 points in the end. That game in hand, absolutely vital, even at this stage. Barnsley, 6 points back now. Barnsley are not going to go away, though, even though they are 6 points gap, because both Ipswich and Manchester City are going to stink out most of March in this.
Yeah. I mean, these next two games are where we lost it, isn't it? I know you referred to the Man City game, the 1-0 defeat back early on this season, but looking back at these two games now coming up is what cost us automatic.
Absolutely, yeah. And just in the notes it says it's now a straight shootout between Ipswich and Man City. That is the context of
Charlton are over
now.
there.
Yeah.
Go to the hill and break it.
And yeah, really strange one, Dave. 22nd place Pompey are going to show up here. If you look back at the pictures, the stadium's absolutely rammed full.
Yeah,
and it's a nice goal. Sammy Igo sets up Steve Claridge. Marcus Stewart is back. Dave, we've spoken about this on the pod, about Ipswich and their kind of history of bottling and when it's a big game, and bit of a sense here, wasn't it?
A little bit, but again, we spoke about injuries. I just look, no Venus or McGreal, so you had a back five of Clegg, Clapham, Brown, Mowbray, and Wilness.
There you go.
So that was obviously a huge factor, I'd say in this game.
We come back on the Tuesday night, Dave, and it's Blackburn now. They're about to hire Graham Souness as manager. They haven't
really
quite yet. Still rammed full of decent players, as we're going to discuss when we get to the final day of the season. And I'm a bit sick in my mouth as I describe it. But again, McGreal and Scowcroft out. And another frustrating one, Dave. 2 straight shutouts, and it's a 0-0 draw here against Blackburn.
Yeah, another great strike from Clapham, I think, hits the bar, if I remember rightly. These are the two games. You look at these two home games and the position we were going into March, and you think, okay, minimum 4 points, but really, you'd want 6 points out of both those games. Pompey in 22nd, Blackburn really not pulling up any trees this season. So it was, that was, 5 points dropped in those two games was the kicker, really.
It's going to get worse. Because off we go to Wolves. So this is the end of a 3-game week where only 1 point is scored. A second defeat here. Not Justine Flo or Tour Andre Flo, but Hubbard Flo, who you can still find him, I'm sure, somewhere. But a 2-1 defeat up at Wolves, and it's really, really starting to come a cropper.
Yeah, I think we're 2-0 down. Scully gets one back, and there's a absolutely nailed on penalty. You can see it's in the YouTube highlight. Nailed
George
on penalty.
Goes crazy, doesn't he?
On Naylor. Oh my God. Yeah, Naylor does a defender. Absolutely, no doubt about it. And just wave play on. Yeah, he does. I think he might get, whether he got sent to the stands or not, I can't remember, but he was fairly. Christ, look at this March, and it just gets worse.
Well, you think, how can it possibly get any worse? Well. Here come Norwich, and not only here come Norwich, but here come Norwich with former assistant Brian Hamilton as caretaker manager, who has worked with most of this Ipswich squad. And look, I'm going to sound biased. This always seems to happen against Norwich. Incredibly lucky. They always seem to score some kind of early goal down at the North Stand end in these games.
Roberts, isn't it? I think Roberts gets 2, and he does his shot. I think it hits.
Not even going in the goal. It hits Thetis.
It's on the arse, doesn't it, or something, and completely wrong foot.
To be fair, I don't even know why Wright is diving, but we'll give him a pass. He's probably diving just to shepherd it and spins off. I have to say though, Dave, the second goal is brilliant, isn't it, by Roberts?
Yeah, pulls it down. Bit shades of Bergkamp a bit, sort of pulls it down, doesn't it? If we can, sorry, we shouldn't really mention them in the same breath, but you know what I mean? That kind of pulls a long ball out of the sky, takes his time and, places it in the corner. Yeah, not great. And I just made a note here, perhaps not surprising, it was Manu's last appearance.
There you go. We've spoken about George's on-the-job scouting. I believe this is the game that got Andy Marshall signed for Ipswich. No, I genuinely do. I remember him being excellent in this.
That's good. Did we?
Yeah, he makes a really good save from Johnson. And the second goal is he takes a corner. Imagine this, Ipswich fans. He takes a corner and throws it out to start the attack.
Yeah, was it Chris Llewellyn, wasn't it, the winger, I believe? I seem to remember that. But then after this game, you've published the table here, and Charlton. You know what? So obviously, if we're taking 1 point out of 12, then they've obviously taken the full 12 or even more.
Off they go, yeah. But Dave, Manchester City are also 7 without a win at the same time, which has
Yeah, you're
allowed
right. Look at this. And Barnsley
Barnsley
as well. We're all level. Bloody hell.
to come
Yeah.
in. So yeah, Charlton are 13 points clear now, and could
City still
probably
with that.
draw all their games and still get promoted.
City still with that game in hand.
But we're level on points now, and Man City, Ipswich, and Barnsley all tied on 65. Manchester City have added big lump Bob Taylor, not that one, Robert Taylor from Gillingham. So they've responded to the Stewart signing with a guy who tormented them for Gillingham in the previous season. Yeah. Off we go to Tranmere, and would you believe Statman has tweeted this on one of his on the days, and this was 20 years ago today, Dave.
Yeah, it was.
Tranmere 0, Ipswich 2. First win in 6. Still no McGreal, no Stewart, but Holland and Johnson there, and they go back second place here. 8 to play, second place, 2 points ahead of Man City, who have that game in hand. Dave's still in the box seat, that close to it.
Yeah. I remember this is a game where Johnson sort of like hooks one over his head from sort of close range.
Great finish. He could have.
Yeah, it is
clever
that
finish.
One up. Yeah.
We do get another boost and a really incredible signing at this point. Am I right? From Ajax Amsterdam?
I thought it was Vitesse Arnhem.
Oh, was it Vitesse Arnhem?
Yeah, maybe. But I think you're right. I think he came through I'm sure he came through the Ajax Academy, the famed Ajax Academy. I believe he did.
So George is going to pull out another masterstroke here, because here comes Mr. Martin Royce. Dave, describe him as a player and compare and contrast his work rate with his technique and skill.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the hardest work, as some would describe. Perhaps, I quite like these players if you can accommodate them. Perhaps a bit of a luxury player.
I'd have a whole team of them, Dave.
Oh, for God's sake! Very direct, 2-footed, deceptively quick,
good dribbler.
Deceptively quick. Yeah, like to get the ball down and play. Just a really, really clever footballer. And, I think I've got this right. I think, you can see, but just by his technique alone, he came through the Dutch way, perhaps the Charles Curver, Dutch and the Ajax way. Fantastic player. And what a sign. Again, from nowhere. I don't think anyone had really ever heard of the guy. I think, although perhaps he was even then on the fringes, I think he must have had Dutch under 23, under 21 caps. Maybe he was on the fringe of the Dutch side. I can't remember, but again, totally out of the blue. And I mean, game one, what an impact! Christ almighty.
Sort of player, Dave. If you played five-a-side with him, you'd absolutely hate him because he'd do no running back. He'd want the ball the whole game, but would score a load of goals though.
Yeah, you wouldn't give it a ball.
Yeah, tremendous. And yes, you're right. We're up against Fulham, and the first famous of 3 late Martin. Unless you count the one against Charlton as well, spoiler alert. Martin Royce goals, and a lovely assist from Jim Magilton here for this one, and he pokes it in. Dave,
he's on a sub, isn't he? Don't forget. So he's on a sub. He doesn't start the game. Royce is on a sub here.
Dave, Martin Royce never started for Ipswich.
Well, very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
He can't run for an hour and a half. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and a great finish. Latches onto it. I think Mike Taylor's in goal for Fulham, and gets there first and pokes it. I mean, that really was a limb, certainly, because it's a North Stand end as well, wasn't it? Bloody hell. And
George finally manages to get Mowbray, McGreal and Venus out.
Yeah.
And Dave, that must be the first time going back, because Venus was out a while. I haven't checked it, but we must be going back into the autumn for the last time he was able to get those players out.
I think you're probably right. What's funny about here, you've got we go into April and Ben's published the top 4. He hasn't even bothered putting Charlton's points in it. He's just put miles clear. I think they were, weren't they? Christ.
They were, yeah.
Look at Barnsley though. My God.
Dave, just quick little before we do that table, ifs, buts, and maybes. If Mowbray, McGreal, and Venus are there during March, they don't lose those games, do they?
No. There's probably at least 5 more points there, probably. Yeah.
There you go. And no playoffs.
See, well, I'll get to this at the end. Yeah, go on.
You're
Yeah.
gonna conclude that the way this all works out is exactly how it should have, isn't it?
Well,
Eh?
God, I mean, just imagine those memories that everybody's got, just you wouldn't have had. Yeah, brilliant, you're up without the potential heartache what we've been through all those seasons before. But yeah, the
And
previous
Dave,
season.
I wouldn't have seen, and probably, well, I don't know about you, I wouldn't have seen the greatest game I've ever seen in my life as a football fan. So,
No,
um,
good,
there you
good
go.
point.
Yes, Charlton and Miles clear, but Dave Barnsley will not go away. Ipswich and Man City on terrible runs. So we go into April. Barnsley are second, played 40, 74 points. Man City are third, 39, played 72 points. Ipswich 39, played 71.
Well,
And
yeah, so
this is,
there's City's game in hand has gone by then, obviously.
yeah, this is going
Yeah,
to be a real sprint now
yeah,
to the line. Barnsley are not going to be able to keep up, but
no,
away we go. And this feels like a missed opportunity here, Dave, because West Brom are going to, as we say, escape relegation on the last day of the season. And
good
I
at that.
remember this one was on Sky, Dave. West Brom 1, Ipswich 1. Really tense performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, again, I'm not sure I remember it that well. Well, the thing you remember about this game is the is the Magilton and Johnson fisticuffs, where Johnson, by his standards, misses a gilt edge chance that he puts it in the side net, and doesn't he? And Jim's not happy. It's fair to say, is he?
But Dave, can I just say to that? And Johnson, these are words from his own mouth. He 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 says when Magilton came, he raised the standard
Oh
of
yeah,
everybody, and
yeah,
that type of tongue lashing for missing a good chance was part of him holding everybody to a higher standard, and
yeah.
something that we could have killed for over the last 5, 10 years, isn't it?
Christ, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And probably, Johnson, it was such a tense game that, yeah, Johnson normally would have just taken it from Magilton, but reacted accordingly.
So Lee Hughes scores, and yet again Matt Holland bails us out in an away game with a
Yeah, yeah,
late goal.
yeah,
However, Dave, the next night Man City have a big win over Bolton. So this is the switch of places that's
yeah.
never going to be recovered. They win 2-0, and maybe I'm making this up. I think maybe Robert Taylor scores in that game
Probably
as
does.
well. Yeah.
Yeah,
So Ipswich are fourth, 1 point off Barnsley. They're now 3 off Manchester City, which is absolutely key now.
crucial.
Off we go back to Portman Road. Easy win over Port Vale, 3-0. McGreal's disappeared again. He's out. Stewart, Scowcroft, and Johnson are in. Just can't get the whole first team out, Dave. Town moved past Barnsley, but Manchester City are gonna keep turning it on. It's one of those end of seasons now where the fixtures ease up a little bit, but everybody
Yeah,
wins together, don't they?
yeah, yeah. I remember this particular week. I was in South Africa actually, and I remember going to the airport while the Port Vale game was on. So listen to Suffolk. And I think we were quite comfortable early on, 1 or 2 nil up quite early on, but not really, not knowing the score. So I think got to the airport or something. And I was also still there. I think I had a 10-day trip. I was still there and couldn't find out the score until much later of the following week at Stockport.
Absolutely. And we always seem to go to Stockport and win 1-0. I think we did it 3 years in a row, didn't we? Well,
Yeah,
while they were
yeah.
up.
Big thing about this game is Richard Wright. Richard Wright equaled Steve McCall's record of 175 consecutive appearances.
Boom.
I mean, that's impressive. That's impressive in itself, but 175 McCall from an outfield player is just off the charts, isn't it?
This was a bit of a throwback game to the previous season with Ipswich winning 1-0 and Wright bailing them out. I remember a couple of really good saves in this game from.
Was it the previous season where Dyer scores a ridiculous goal, chip on the run?
Yeah, chip on the
yeah.
And Johnson's going to do it this time, but Dave McGreal's off on 14 minutes again in this one, out injured. However, on the same day, Man City draw at Grimsby, so 2 points switched. The gap is down to 1 point now with 4 to play, and Ipswich 4 wins and a draw in those 5 games, Dave. And are you ready for your heart to break? Because off we go to Chris Kiwamia's QPR on the 22nd of April.
Again,
no Stewart, no McGreal,
you look at
and
the back.
no Venus.
Again, back five: Wilness, Croft, Brown, Mowbray, Clapham. Yeah, it's not ideal. And again, QPR really did go to
And
town on
Gavin
us.
Peacock particularly as
He
well.
really did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't know what he had in for us in this one. So yeah, I remember being at this game in the top tier with big away followings everywhere, and we battled and we battled, but in isolation, this is a really, really key defeat because when you actually look at the last sort of 9 games for Ipswich and for Man City didn't have a defeat in the last 9. I think they had 7 wins and 2
7-3-2, didn't
draws,
they? Yeah.
and we have
Yeah.
7 wins, 1 draw, 1
Yeah.
defeat.
I
This
mean,
is it.
to be honest, even with that makeshift, QPR away is never the easiest of games, isn't it? Tight ground, pitch, but again, those missing players were key.
What I remember as well, Dave, when Kiwomya scores, the ball goes through the net at the at the other end, and I remember being so desperate at the time. Oh, the goal can't stand. The net's broken. Restart the game, 2-1. And I remember Steve Harper in goal getting some very 90s treatment, literally pelters. We'll leave it at that from behind the goal. But that was a bit of a throwback, that one. So the gap is now vitally 4 points. Man City have gone to Tranmere and won, and on April the 24th, rather unfairly, Man City are expected to play Saturday and then Monday.
Monday, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe the Leeds fans are right about Sky TV. But they go to Portsmouth, knowing that a win for Ipswich could close the gap. Sorry, they draw at Portsmouth, meaning that a win for Ipswich can close the gap up. And probably the tensest game of the whole run-in.
Yeah, it's tough, that one.
Can I just tell a quick anecdote? And we mentioned my mate Chris, who we had the sad thing, but it's not all sad with Chris, because Chris phoned up there was a competition on the radio to do impressions, and Chris used to do a brilliant impression of George Burley. So I said to him, phone up and do the George Burley impression. So Chris, bites the bullet, phones up, wins the competition on the radio, and wins hospitality for this game. Because he's a stand-up geezer, he says, Ben, you harangued and harassed me. You can't imagine me doing that, can you? To do it. Won't you come to the hospitality with me? So I watched the game from in the Pioneer by where Rob Chandler sits. There's a restaurant bit there. I watched the game from behind the glass up there in hospitality.
I've seen games from there. Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Free wine.
I had a client. So where are we? Yeah, a couple of seasons before. There was corporate up there, and I've seen a game from there. Yeah.
But just a great.
Amazing.
Couple of Chantry boys watching from corporate.
Yeah, super. It was
quite feel right.
Yeah, what I remember about the game is a really good goal. It was a real long crossfield ball from Brown. Is a brilliant take from Johnson. Sort of takes it on his chest in one movement and sort of hits it quite early near post. The other thing we obviously remember about that game is quite an impressive display from a very young Ashley Cole.
Yeah, playing left wing, and also I remember Andy Linnigan absolutely taking the piss. He did not run, headed everything away completely.
Yeah, no,
I think he was 37 at the time as well. But played years for.
Yeah, that was really getting towards the end of that game. It was like one of those, and chewed fingernails and stuff. Yeah, that was a tense game, that one.
But the gap is closed up to 2 points again, and we just got to keep coming back to this table because this chase was incredible. 44 played now, Dave. We can get rid of Charlton, we can get rid of Barnsley. Let's just focus on Man City and Ipswich. Man City 83 points, Ipswich 81, and then infamously, the pubs in Ipswich were all full watching this game on the Friday night. Man City on the TV beat Birmingham. Robert Taylor scores the goal, obviously, to go 5 points clear with 1 to play for them. And infamously, Dave, their fans invade the pitch and celebrate promotion. How does that go over with the Ipswich fans?
Well, I think you've got to put it into context because they're taking that line because the very next day we are away at Charlton, aren't we? And it's all set. Charlton have romped the league, romped the division. You know,
And the
promotion was
trophy's
secured.
there.
Exactly. Promotion was secured probably 3 or 4, or certainly 2 or 3 games before, and it is the presentation of the trophy. So to say, yeah, I could kind of get why Man City were kind of, a bit presumptuous there, but
Dave,
I think it's fair to say we go and piss on their chips, don't we? Really?
Well, you know who else is going to Charlton? Matt Holland, James Scowcroft, Jim Magilton, David Johnson, and Marcus Stewart.
Yeah,
all are going to go
it's
together.
One of the best away. It's one of the best away games to this day. I think I've ever been. It was a blisteringly hot day.
We were in fancy dressed as gangsters. Because it was the last away game of the season. Yeah,
absolutely blisteringly hot day at Charlton, and I think all the Ipswich goals came up our end, or did Magilton's perhaps?
Well, Dave, also remember the last time I was there, and I was on the front page of the newspaper looking very glum, was the playoff semi-final defeat, the Sean Newton goal in '98. So we were going. It's the first time we've been
full
back.
Circle. Yeah,
you know, absolutely full circle.
No, it was Magilton put us one up, then he class free kick for the half. So we won it.
Exactly the same as the Grimsby one, wasn't it?
Yeah, class. And then I think
Magilton again, brilliant.
Again plays that eye sort of ball for Johnson. This is a good Johnson finish. It's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Johnson just takes it early and lashes it in, doesn't he? And then I think quite late on, Royce gets like a real p-roller in it. The ball sort of comes in and he sort of makes a connection, and the keeper sort of he's gone, he's done, and I think Hunt gets a late goal, but we absolutely ruined their day. I mean, obviously they like to have signed off with a win, but it was all back on again, wasn't it?
And it was quite the 2 fingers up to the Manchester City fans who'd invaded the pitch celebrating promotion. So, are you ready for it, Dave? And we've got to do this day in quite some detail. So it's May the 7th, 2000. I assume it's a Sunday, isn't it? Promotion Sunday. Man City 45 played, 86 points. So decent totals. Ipswich 45 played, 84 points. As we say, going into these games, both teams have been pretty perfect for the last 6 or 7 games, other than that one Ipswich defeat at QPR.
And I think more than anything, the absence in this, 20 years on, the absence of
oh my God, how would it have been? Well, remember, Dave, the previous season we had exactly the same thing. We're playing Sheffield United.
Yeah, Sheffield United. Yeah. Sorry,
Bradford are at Wolves, and
that's
exactly the same thing.
Oh, same scenario. It's exactly the same.
What I remember about that is the effect that it had on the players. I remember Wolves taking the lead, it going round the ground, and our players for 2 minutes going to absolute pieces, and Sheffield United nearly scoring twice, and we couldn't string a pass together. As if you weren't at these final day things, they were incredible.
Down quite well. I think in the end we beat them quite easily.
4-1.
Yeah. This game though, this Walsall game. Again, I had it in my head that we scored quite early, but we didn't.
No.
Oh.
Well, let me give you the context first, Dave. Man City have got an 8-goal lead in the goal difference. Mean they really only need a draw. However, a defeat and an Ipswich win, and of course we're football fans, so that's what we believe is going to happen. Town could overtake them and snatch second place. Ipswich are at home to third bottom Walsall, who did have a good chance to stay up, given that West Brom are going away to Charlton, who are on similar points, and they're up against Crewe there. And the great white hope is Blackburn, who Man City are away to. They're 11th in the table. Graham Souness is in, but they'd had a £30 million spend, Dave, and some good players in there. Matt Jansen, Nathan Blake,
we were always
linked
on occasions with Jansen, good player. And I think injuries in the end did for him, but rated Jansen, always did.
And honestly, I know I get accused of hyperbole, but we need to go through this actual blow by blow, because it is incredible what happened. So with it being old school Man City, there's 8,000 in the end.
And they're
1,000
up
on
on
the
the hill.
hill,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
very much like I was at Hull Leeds, where literally you look 5 seats down and you're like, that guy's a Leeds fan, isn't he? In every stand, there must be
Yeah.
outside the ground and inside the ground over 10,000
Yeah. It's probably
Manchester City
10,000.
fans there,
Yeah.
and the luck that they're going to get in this game
But
is.
There's one in particular. Go on.
Oh, the Ashley Ward one.
Ugh.
Stop it. It makes me feel sick even watching that. So we're into the first half here. Ipswich fairly dominant at Portman Road, but can't open the scoring. 26 minutes. Marlon Brooms is going to head against the bar for Blackburn. Don't worry, that's the tip of the iceberg. On 42, Matt Jansen opens the scoring. Long throw, very similar to the goal we conceded at Blackburn earlier in the season.
Yeah.
News then goes around Portman Road that Blackburn are doing their bit. Everything goes mental, but the half-time whistle goes. So, Dave, at half-time, Blackburn are losing. All Ipswich need to do is beat third bottom Walsall now, and for Blackburn to hold out. What happens next, Dave?
Incredible. It's just nuts. I mean, so Johnson, I've just got the timeline here. So Johnson scores for us just after half-time. Cue mad scenes.
And then, very unlikely celebration by him as well. He loses it, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, this is when it gets nuts. And I look back at the footage today because I had to. Ashley Ward, 56 minutes, turns inside, in the box, turns inside his man. And the ball's in the top corner. We was just looking at the ball's in the top corner, hits it inside. Look, almost hits the apex of the bar and post, doesn't it? Comes out, just
Dave,
doesn't go in.
The only one I can compare it to is Waddle against West Germany.
That's
the only
impossible. How did that ball
sickening
not go in? At the angle it hit, how did it not go in? A good point.
And Dave,
then
that would have been 2-0 to Blackburn and game over.
Game over. And then Jansen a minute later does virtually the same thing, spins, again hits the post. But this is quite a good goal, actually. Again, I looked at this. Goater's goal is a brilliant ball. It's quite a clever move. I think Kennedy picks out. It's Horlock, isn't it? Good delivery. Horlock on the edge of the box. Absolutely brilliant ball in that corridor of uncertainty. And again, given the pressure, class finish from Goater because it sort of bounces and he's on the run and he's very close in and side foots it in. Then I think that starts to filter through the ground and it's
because we know a draw is it, and that completely just punctured it. And Dave as well, that goal has got Joe Royal's fingerprints all over it, hasn't it? Play forward, play early, get the ball in the box, attack fast. When you're attacking, sprint, put crosses in, and
then 5 minutes later, it's a horrible own goal, Christian Daly, and then the wheels come. And then obviously the wheels come off. Yeah, I think we're getting all this by now,
and it's done, isn't it? And to be fair, we Ipswich fans love Joe Royal, and what I remember is Joe Royal's face as Mark Kennedy's running over to him, just the smile,
he was really good. He was on Life's a Pitch at Mark Murphy thing yesterday. He rang in and what a guy, absolute gentleman. Clearly, still holds the club in our club in great affection.
But just winding back though, Dave, that point, and they hit the post twice, and the Matt Jansen one reminds me of John Walk's one in the FA Cup final, where it's low to the keeper's left, and Johnson.
Yeah, we did. Look, we couldn't have done anything. We couldn't have done anything more. And I've made note. Ultimately though, what memories we would have, as I said earlier, what memories we would have been deprived of. Spoiler.
But just even Man City fans admit it. They could literally have lost that game 3 or 4-0. And they won it 4-1.
And I think the worst thing for us is what's gone on 3 seasons, prior to this. And you think, here we go again.
Well, there's a sting in the tail, Dave, because we're all looking at second place, and what nobody's watching is 6th place. And out of absolutely nowhere.
So who was it between? Was it Huddersfield?
Huddersfield and Bolton. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, not Barnsley. Sorry, Bolton. Sorry, of course, yeah.
Out of nowhere, Bolton, in their last 12 games, won 9, drew 2. And lost 1.
It was some phenomenal. That's what I thought. There was some of these teams had unbelievable runs, didn't they? Towards throughout the season and towards the end of the season.
My recollection of those years under Burley is that it got to February, and everybody,
Oh,
Charlton, Sunderland,
yeah,
Bradford, Man
yeah,
City, Bolton, everybody just went hell for leather towards
yeah.
the end of the season. So Bolton claim sixth place, having been 9 points away with 11 games to go.
Incredible.
And Dave, what do you point? What do you put Huddersfield's drop off out of the playoffs down to?
Well, I think you can, just incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Bolton would not even. This is the most ridiculous thing: that away goals defeat. Bolton would not even be there if we hadn't taken Huddersfield's best player off them.
It's just crazy.
Oh dear.
Absolutely, absolutely crazy.
What a run in though, Dave. Man City won 7 and drew 2 of their last 9.
Yeah.
Ipswich won 7, drew 1, lost 1.
Yeah, QPR. I think, yeah, you can say you made the note here about the QPR away game, but it was March that did for us, wasn't it? No, I know, okay, Norwich, Norwich games, the passion, the intensity, even, we've seen it all before, can go either way, but I honestly think that Pompey at home defeat and the loss of and the draw the very next game at home against Blackburn ultimately did for us, didn't they?
So, Dave, looking back at it now, amazing running. The reasoning maybe is George is having to adjust on the fly during the season, and I've said many times, either end, the ability to get Mowbray, Venus, and McGreal on at the same time,
Well,
or up the other end after his signing. It's
yeah.
so rare that he managed to get Scowcroft, Stewart, and Johnson on at the same
Yeah, I
time.
think you're right. And I think the difference is perhaps compared to previous seasons. Okay, the previous season, obviously, we had the likes of Dyer, people like that. But I think, if and ultimately we did in the playoffs get these players on the pitch, there's a real hardcore of experience. The backbone of the side is there. And look, spoiler alert, I think ultimately that was what, it did. That's what got us over the line, really. But
And look,
memories just
oh, it
absolutely
was
brilliant.
incredible
God,
run-ins, and just
yeah.
again another little tip of the cap to Joe Royle. You're up against a manager whose teams, however well they were playing or set up, always knew how to score goals, didn't they?
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
through his career, all those Oldham
Oh yeah,
teams and
yeah,
Everton teams and Man
yeah, yeah,
City teams, they
yeah.
all
Oh,
and
entertaining, all entertaining. Yeah, always on the front foot. Yeah, absolutely. That's just how he played. Yeah,
incredible.
great
And
memories, mate. Great memories. 20 years ago, I can't believe that. I mean, where's that hellfire? Where's that time gone? But yeah, just brilliant times, weren't they? Brilliant times. And I think you look at the team, the state the club is in today, and did we really? Again, well, me and my friends go back obviously to the Robson era, and I know I bang on about it, and we always say back then, we just perhaps took things for granted back then, and we'd always be challenging then, and in the top division and playing in Europe and stuff like that. And I think perhaps even in this year's, we always took it for granted that we'd be, I say it the first time there or thereabouts, in the playoffs, and ultimately left at heartache. But my God, what you wouldn't give for some of this now, and some of these characters, not just quality of players, but you said before, some of these strong characters in the
Richard
side,
Naylor, Matt
like
Holland,
Magilton,
Jim
Naylor,
Magilton,
Magilton,
yeah.
Mowbray, strong characters through the team. You've just got none of that, none at all.
It was Dave. We discussed it in the WhatsApp group. It was just so much simpler. Do you know what I mean? No parachute payments,
No,
distorting
no,
everything.
much more
Good
equal.
good
Well,
recruitment,
yeah,
reinvest,
yeah.
and sign good players and play good football. And
Well, and that's it. Everything that's not there now, unfortunately. But yeah, fantastic. And yeah, I think we're passing the baton on to our colleagues, aren't we now?
we are going to pass the baton on. So we've
Baton.
done the whole of the regular season. I dare say if Dave and I did these two playoff games, I'd probably have some kind of heart attack or something because I mean this is the incredible thing about this whole story is that if I was a script writer and I handed this to you, you'd go, "Oh, it's nice, Ben. Very creative. Bit far fetched at the end, though, isn't it? The record signing's going to come back and score the two most ridiculous goals you've ever seen, and then there's going to be 3 penalties, 2 red cards, 8 goals, extra time. And that's not even before we've
When you
mentioned the
say
final.
is that the best game you've ever been to?
The Of course it is. Yeah. You can't the semi-final second leg. you know me, I'm just a big narrative and context guy, and for
So,
me, as
yeah,
a 17-year-old at that point, that story had lasted 3 years already leading up to that point.
yeah.
I'd invested emotionally for
It's
3 years, and
yeah,
seen
yeah.
get close and get close. And
Uh,
also, Dave, if you were writing the movie, even for the same foes and enemies to keep coming back every time and
And
pick
it's
you,
up,
is just
and I've got to
incredible.
say, it's up there for me. I think I've said before, probably my favourite ever game was the Cup semi-final at Highbury. My favourite ever game. And again, for the narrative and what happened 4 years before, and Clive Thomas, or five or whatever, how many years before, and Clive Thomas was referee, and da da da. But 3 years before, sorry. But yeah, this would for me, this would certainly be certainly in my top five. Absolutely, just
Incredible.
incredible, just
Absolutely incredible. So
incredible.
yeah, we're going to pass the baton on. We'll ask you again if you've got memories of that run in, to tweet them into us at Blue Monday. ITFC, we hope you've enjoyed this as a little bit of escapism
Brilliant, mate.
whilst there is no football. And for those of you who are younger, again, the Man City, it's a very, very different beast than it is
Well, I've
now,
got to
like we've
think you have to
said.
put it in. You have to put that into context. That a season or two before, the season before, season or two before, Man City were in League One.
Well, they did consecutive back-to-back promotions. Just that club has
And
got a lot to thank Joe
very,
Royle for.
very
Yeah,
luckily got out of League One as well. I mean,
yeah.
Christ Almighty! You know, you spoke about Taylor. I mean, what, two goals in
In
injury
stoppage
time?
time, yeah. And just the nature. I know we're digressing. The nature of the equaliser is just a boot down the pitch. Could have gone anywhere,
Dick off,
and Goethe
dick
flicks
off.
it on, and Dickoff sticks in the top corner. Incredible, absolutely incredible. There you go.
No, it's brilliant,
Um,
mate. Enjoyed that, Ben. Thanks
Very
for that.
much
No,
so,
it's
yeah.
really
Great to reminisce, and it could be our time again, and hopefully there'll be someone who's going to be a 17-year-old at the time I was, who'll be able to look back and
yeah,
have great
yeah.
times with great stories like we've got, because that's what it's all about, really, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of course it is. No, enjoyed it, and I think yeah, hopefully people will will appreciate it, because the memories are just it's 20 years ago, but when you do go over these games, it's still so fresh in your mind, isn't it?
Oh,
It's brilliant.
amazing, Dave. I watched back the Man City away game where we lose 1-0, and there's a chance we miss, and the ball gets booted up in the air by Andy Morrison before. And for a split second, I was right back in the stadium, and I remembered the ball going up in the air and looking up towards the. It's amazing. I was back in that stand
I know. I know.
behind the goal and thinking, come on, we're going to score in this game. And Jonas Axeldahl's not going to hit the post another 8 times,
And
but
Weaver make a ridiculous save again.
yeah,
He
amazing.
was a wall that night, wasn't he? An absolute wall.
There you go. We could go for hours, but we'll wrap it up there, Dave. Say goodbye to the listeners and wish them
Yeah,
well.
goodbye everyone. Keep safe in these, uncertain times, I think. But yeah, just keep safe and well, everyone. Thanks for listening, of course.
And we'll see you back soon. It probably won't be Dave and I, so either Richard, Mikey, or both, and
Well, actually,
another.
should we say actually we're now about, you can tune into the quiz, can't we now?
I think we're putting this out the day after the quiz, so I think the quiz has already happened in podcast land. But
Oh yes. I'm
but
just looking at the time.
yeah, but yes,
I'm
the
totally out of podcast land.
quiz was a great success, wasn't it, Dave?
Quiz was absolutely brilliant. Those bloody picture questions were hard, though.
That's the spoiler alert. Okay. Right. Thank you, everybody. Keep smiling. Keep safe, and we hope you enjoyed our little wander through memory lane. Say goodbye, Dave.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.